My name is Kayla, and at 32 years old, I never thought I'd claim my power right there at the Christmas table. Every year those gatherings filled me with dread, knowing she'd find fresh ways to tear me down and make me feel worthless. But this year hit different. Her words finally pushed me to end it all for good, with that check sealing the break. It wasn't the first time. Back when I was 16 during a neighborhood barbecue, she compared my grades to my brother's in front of all the guests and spat out trash like it was nothing, laughing it off as a joke while I burned inside. Those moments stacked up, and I'd been quietly preparing something special, a way to show my worth and walk away forever. Before I dive into my story, I want to know what time you're listening and from which city. I'm thrilled to see how far these tales reach. Hit like and subscribe for more real accounts of standing strong in tough spots. Growing up in a suburban neighborhood outside St. Louis, Missouri, our house looked like the ideal family home from the street, a 2-story brick with a welcoming porch, well-kept lawn, and holiday lights that went up every season without fail. But behind those doors, things were far from perfect. My mother, Teresa, put on a charming face for outsiders like neighbors or school parents, but at home, her words hit like targeted strikes. Kayla, straighten up, people judge girls who slouch. Kayla, that shirt makes you look sloppy. Kayla, a B in math, that's not cutting it. My younger brother Anthony got a completely different experience in the same house. 3 years junior to me, he was treated like the prize from the start. Anthony's already reading chapter books at 5. Anthony's great at debate, he takes after my side. Anthony just draws people in so easily. My father Paul watched it all unfold from his recliner or work desk, a steady mechanic who hated rocking the boat. He'd catch my eye or give a subtle nod after her barbs, but instead of stepping in, he'd enable it by agreeing to keep peace. Your mother's right, he'd say quietly later. She pushes hard because she cares. It never came across as care, it came across as rejection. Those comments dotted my childhood, little digs that added up over time. Meanwhile, Anthony's path was paved smooth. At family barbecues, Teresa would brag about his straight A's to relatives while dismissing mine as average, even when I outperformed him in subjects like science. One Thanksgiving when I was 12, she compared our report cards right at the table in front of aunts and uncles, calling my effort trash because it didn't match his perfect scores, then laughing like it was lighthearted. The room chuckled along, but it stung deep, planting the first seeds of resentment. I started noting every slight in a private journal, vowing one day I'd prove my value beyond her judgments. Paul's role made it worse. He'd nod along during those moments to avoid arguments, saying things like Teresa knows best when she'd favor Anthony's sports trophies over my academic awards. It taught me early that speaking up led to more tension, so I internalized it instead. School became my escape, where results came from effort alone. I pushed hard, earning top grades and leadership roles in clubs, but at home, Teresa would downplay them. An honor roll mention. Anthony's on there too, and he balances sports. Paul's silence reinforced it, his occasional sympathetic pat feeling hollow without action. As I got older, the favoritism showed in bigger ways. When Anthony wanted a new bike at 10, they got it immediately. My requests for books or art supplies got, we'll see, delays. At a neighborhood block party when I was 14, Teresa praised Anthony's social skills to the crowd while critiquing my shyness as awkward, whispering later that I was trash at fitting in. Paul overheard, but just changed the subject, enabling her pattern. I began saving allowance money, secretly dreaming of independence, recording each incident to remind myself why I needed to break free. By high school, the divide was clear. Anthony got private tutoring for tests he barely needed while I studied alone in my room. Teresa signed him up for elite camps, claiming he had natural talent, but dismissed my interest in coding classes as a phase. Paul went along, budgeting for Anthony's extras but questioning mine. One evening after a school event where I won a tech award, she compared it to Anthony's soccer medal in front of family friends, calling my achievement trash compared to real skills. The humiliation fueled me. I started applying for scholarships, quietly building a plan to leave without their support. Despite the constant comparisons, I excelled. Valedictorian in high school, full ride to a state university for computer science. Teresa's response, a backhanded, good for you, but Anthony's on track for law school already. Paul echoed her with a weak, we're proud. But his inaction spoke louder. Those years hardened my resolve. I kept track of every favoritism act, from holiday gifts, Anthony's always bigger, to daily praises, his minor wins celebrated, mine ignored. It wasn't just hurt, it was a quiet fire pushing me to succeed on my own terms. The breaking point came in my senior year. At a family reunion, Teresa recounted old stories highlighting Anthony's easy baby days while painting me as difficult from the start, then slipped in another trash comment about my teenage rebellion, meaning my pushback on her rules in front of extended relatives. Paul laughed nervously along, enabling as always. That night, I decided enough was enough. I packed my acceptance letter and scholarship details, telling them I'd move out for college without needing their help. Teresa scoffed. Paul stayed silent, but inside, I knew this was the start of reclaiming my life. The unfairness had built too high, hinting at the explosion waiting down the road. After leaving home for college, I built a life far from Missouri in San Francisco, where I landed a senior developer role at a tech startup by 30. My apartment overlooked the bay with foggy mornings and Golden Gate views that felt like freedom. I had close friends, a rescue dog named Cooper, who greeted me with sloppy kisses, and a career that kept climbing, lead on a payment app that hit national tech blogs last year. From the outside, I'd made it. But family gatherings still dragged me back to that kid, desperate for approval that never came. About a year ago, I started sessions with Dr. Garcia, who helped me piece together the patterns from my childhood. She talked about unhealthy family dynamics, how favoritism can shape someone into a scapegoat while another gets the golden child treatment. It clicked. I'd been carrying those old wounds, letting them define me. You get to choose how much power those patterns hold now, she said. You've built something incredible, own it. Her words lit a spark, but not just for healing. I twisted them into something sharper, a quiet excitement to finally show my worth, not just with words, but with something undeniable. I'd been saving aggressively, funneling bonuses and side projects into a separate account. One evening, sitting in my apartment with Cooper sprawled across my lap, I checked the balance, $50,000. A smile crept up as I imagined sliding that check across the table, shutting down years of being called trash with cold, hard proof of what I'd built. It wasn't just money, it was my way of flipping the script, turning their dismissal into my power. I didn't tell Dr. Garcia about this plan. I framed it to her as setting boundaries, but deep down I was gearing up for a showdown. When the Christmas invite came, my gut said skip it. I had a solid excuse, a work conference in Seattle overlapping the holiday. But the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to go, not to please anyone, but to face them on my terms. Dr. Garcia had said boundaries meant deciding who gets access to you, and I took it as permission to walk in ready to end things if it came to that. The idea of that check in my purse, my ace in the hole, made my pulse race, not with fear but with anticipation. I prepped like it was a mission. Made a roasted beet salad knowing my mother would find fault but wanting to show up anyway. Picked a navy cashmere sweater and tailored pants, professional yet festive, with a silver necklace that screamed quiet success. Practiced responses to the usual jabs on dating, I'm good. Focusing on my path. On comparisons, everyone's got their own pace. I ran through Dr. Garcia's advice like a mantra, you're not that kid anymore. You control the narrative now. The night before the trip, I sat at my desk, Cooper snoring nearby, and reviewed my account again. The number stared back, $50,000, my years of hustle in digits. I pictured their faces when I'd lay it down, especially hers, and felt a rush. Not anger, not pain, just certainty. I'd been called trash one too many times, and this was my answer, ready to hit like a shockwave. Driving the 6 hours from San Francisco to our Missouri suburb, I played podcasts to keep my head clear, but nerves crept in as I passed familiar exits. My shoulders tightened, memories of past holidays bubbling up. Not the barbecues or birthdays from childhood, but fresher stings like last Easter when my mother questioned my career choice in front of cousins, or the Christmas 2 years ago when she praised Anthony's law firm job while shrugging off my promotion. I shook it off, focusing on the road. Cooper's leash was packed for the return trip, a reminder of the life waiting back home. As I hit St. Louis outskirts, I whispered to myself, I'm 32, not chasing their validation anymore. The check sat in my purse, a silent promise of what was coming. I wasn't just showing up for dinner, I was walking into a moment that could change everything, and I was ready. Pulling into the driveway of my childhood home outside St. Louis, I gripped the steering wheel, the familiar brick house staring back with its perfect holiday wreath and twinkling lights. My purse held the check, a quiet weight fueling my resolve. I grabbed the roasted beet salad, a bottle of bourbon, and stepped out, whispering one last time, I'm not here for their approval. The front door swung open before I could knock. My mother, Teresa, stood there in a crisp red blouse and apron, her dark hair pinned in a flawless holiday updo, every inch the suburban hostess. Kayla, we were starting to think you'd bailed. Her voice carried that familiar mix of accusation and disappointment. No hug, just a quick scan of my outfit. Long drive must have worn you out, you look it. Before I could reply, my father, Paul, appeared, his warm smile a flicker of comfort from my childhood. Good to see you, kid, he said, pulling me into a hug. I leaned in, catching the scent of his aftershave. Glad you're here, Dad. The house was immaculate, decked out in Christmas cheer, coordinated stockings, a glowing tree, the smell of ham and cinnamon candles thick in the air. In the living room, relatives were already mingling. Aunt Monica, my mother's older sister, waved from an armchair. Next to her sat cousin Lauren with her husband, Ben, and their 2 kids in festive plaid. Uncle Todd, my father's brother, broke off from a chat to greet me with a bear hug. "There's my tech star," he said, his grin genuine. Todd always saw through the family's uneven treatment, offering quiet support. "How's San Francisco treating you?" he asked, curious about my career in a way my parents never were. I started to answer, new projects going strong, but Teresa cut in. "Kayla, get that salad to the kitchen. I've got plenty of sides, so it might not make the table today." The jab landed, but I forced a smile. "It'll keep." In the kitchen, I found my brother Anthony arranging a charcuterie board with his wife Vanessa. At 29, Anthony had checked every box. Top lawyer at a St. Louis firm, married to Vanessa, who left nursing to run their household new home 10 minutes from here. "Kayla," he said, smiling warmly. Despite the favoritism, we'd kept things civil, though never as close as I wanted. "Drive okay?" "Not bad," I said, setting the salad on the counter. Vanessa gave a tight nod. "That sweater's bold new," her tone hinted. I couldn't afford it, though my salary likely doubled Anthony's. "Picked it up a while back," I said, sidestepping. Teresa swooped in, fussing over already perfect dishes. "Vanessa, this board is stunning. You've got such a knack." Former nurse Vanessa said with practiced modesty. "Just a homemaker now learning the ropes." "And you're a natural," Teresa beamed. "Anthony's so lucky." I poured myself a bourbon, offering it around. Todd took a glass with a knowing wink. "So Kayla," Teresa started checking the oven, still coding away at that startup I told my church group. "You're in computers." "Software development," I corrected softly. "Same firm, lead developer, now mentioned it last summer." "Oh, right," she brushed off. "Anthony just won a huge case. His firm says he's partner material already." The pattern kicked in. "Lift Anthony, dim me." I sipped, recalling Dr. Garcia's words, "Her view doesn't define you." Small talk chipped away at me. Teresa noted my skin looked tired from city stress. Aunt Monica praised my apartment's bay view, only for Teresa to question if San Francisco was safe for a single woman. Lauren asked about my dating life, her tone implying 32 and unattached was a red flag. I answered neutrally, but each dig pulled me back to old habits of shrinking myself. Out front, as neighbors dropped by with holiday cookies, Teresa critiqued my posture loud enough for them to hear, comparing it to Vanessa's grace. Paul caught my eye, his face apologetic, but he said nothing, letting her words hang. Anthony glanced my way, uncomfortable, then looked down. Vanessa avoided my gaze, adjusting her earrings. The tension built with every interaction. Teresa's Bob's shopper in front of outsiders, Paul's silence enabling her, Anthony and Vanessa's discomfort doing nothing to stop it. Todd pulled me aside near the staircase, his voice low. "You holding up? She's relentless tonight." "Same old," I said, forcing a grin. He squeezed my shoulder. "Your success bugs her. She can't handle you doing things your way." Before I could respond, Teresa called out, "Everyone, dinner's ready, find your place cards." In the dining room, I saw my seat far from Todd, between Ben, who barely spoke, and Monica's friend from church, a stranger. Classic isolation move. The table sparkled, white linens, heirloom china, crystal catching chandelier light, a centerpiece of pine cones and red berries. Teresa's obsession with appearances screamed through every detail, as if perfection could mask the cracks. As we sat, she announced, the gratitude round her voice bright but edged. My heart sank, knowing this tradition was a minefield of veiled jabs, each one setting the stage for something bigger. Her eyes locked on me, and I braced for the storm. As the gratitude round began, my mother, Teresa, stood at the head of the table, her smile polished but sharp, the Christmas chandelier casting a glow on her perfect hostess act. "I'm so thankful for this family," she said, voice dripping with performance, "especially for Anthony and Vanessa, who always make time to visit and bring such warmth." Her eyes flicked to me, a pause heavy with intent. "And Kayla for squeezing us into her busy city schedule." The jab landed, framing my San Francisco life as selfish neglect. I gripped my fork, keeping my face neutral. My father, Paul, went next, mumbling about health and good fortune, safe as always. Anthony thanked his law firm for new opportunities and Vanessa for her support, his glance at me apologetic but fleeting. Vanessa gushed about family traditions, her tone pointed as she eyed me, the career-driven outlier. When my turn came, I kept it short, grateful for growth in these gatherings, I said, voice steady. Teresa's lips twitched, expecting more, groveling for her hospitality. Food past ham, mashed potatoes, green beans, and talk shifted to family updates. Cousin Lauren shared stories of her kids' holiday pageant met with Teresa's loud praise. Then she pivoted to children in general, pulling out her phone to show photos of a neighbor's new grandbaby. "Precious little thing," she said, passing the phone. Everyone cooed. When it reached me, I smiled. "Sweet kids. Nothing like grandkids." Teresa sighed, staring at me. "Hope I get to experience that joy someday." Anthony shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, we've said we'll start when ready." "Of course, dear." She patted his hand. "You and Vanessa will be amazing parents." Then, unable to resist, she added, "Though Kayla should think about it soon. 32's not getting younger." The table quieted. I took a slow bite of ham, chewing deliberately. "I'm happy with my life as is," I said evenly. "Not everyone needs the same path." "Oh sure," Teresa replied, her sweetness fake. "Some women choose work over family. Hope that doesn't lead to regrets." Uncle Todd tried to shift gears. "Kayla, tell us about that app launch. Saw it in the news." I started explaining our fintech project, but within seconds, Teresa cut in. "Speaking of success, Anthony's up for partner youngest in his firm's history." Anthony looked down. "Mom, it's not locked in yet." But she barreled on, detailing his brilliance, drowning out my moment. Todd caught my eye, shaking his head slightly. As Maine's continued talk veered to local news and holiday plans, Paul steering away from politics when it crept up. I spoke minimally, focusing on my plate, silently repeating Dr. Garcia's words, "You control your narrative." But Teresa wove in jabs: "My city lifestyle too hectic, my cooking skills lacking, even my dog Cooper inferior to purebreds." By the time plates cleared, I'd counted a dozen slices, each one stoking the fire I'd carried from San Francisco. Dessert arrived, pecan pie. Teresa's pride and talk turned to family memories, a dangerous territory where she rewrote my past. "Remember when Kayla broke that ornament at 7, she started framing me as clumsy." "Kids mess up, Mom," I said lightly. "Anthony never did," she countered. "He stayed out of the kitchen," Aunt Monica noted, but Teresa ignored her. "Kayla was always less graceful than others. Piano lessons didn't stick, unlike Vanessa's talent." The old shame hit, memories of failed recitals under her critical gaze. I pushed it down, sipping coffee. Todd jumped in. "Kayla crushed it in high school coding competitions, real skill there." Teresa waved it off. "On skills, Anthony's legal briefs are taught in his firm now." The redirects piled up, my charity work countered by Anthony's pro bono. Monica's question about my apartment twisted into praise for Anthony's new house. By my second pie slice, I'd tallied 9 direct comparisons, 5 lifestyle digs. The room felt warmer. Paul loosening his tie, Todd's sleeves rolled up, only Teresa pristine. Talk hit family traits. Anthony inherited Paul's logic, Vanessa their charm. Then Teresa pivoted to the past. "Before Anthony, Kayla was our only child, always in the way," she said, her tone sharpening. "I was 5, I pointed out, smiling to stay calm. Yes, so needy, threw fits if plates weren't right." Monica softened it. "Kayla doted on Anthony when he arrived, always singing to him." For a moment it felt kind, but Teresa twisted. "Kayla struggled when Anthony came. We weren't ready for kids so soon after marriage. She changed everything." The air tightened. Paul coughed. "Teresa, maybe clear the desserts." "Just being honest," she said, voice pitching higher. "We were newlyweds when I got pregnant with Kayla, had to scrap our Europe plans. Paul stuck in that mechanic job instead of his own shop." My ears buzzed. Not new, but so blunt here. Mom, Anthony started uneasy. "Oh, Anthony was planned," she pressed, ignoring him. We waited, set up properly. She took a delicate bite of pie, then struck. "Kayla was trash. Wish you'd never been born. Sometimes life would have been easier." She laughed lightly, expecting agreement. Nervous chuckles followed. Vanessa giggled. Lauren smiled awkwardly. Paul gave a strained laugh, eyes on his cup. Only Todd, Monica, and Anthony stayed silent, shocked, glancing between us. The room slowed. I set my fork down, tines aligned, hands in my lap, heart racing. Every slight, every trash from years past crystallized. She'd said it aloud, casually, expecting me to take it like always. But I was done. I stood silent, stretching, and reached into my purse. The check, $50,000, felt heavy as I slid it across the table toward Teresa. Everyone saw the amount, gasps rippling. "You called me trash," I said, voice clear and steady. "Here's what this trash is worth. Don't contact me again." Teresa froze, hand trembling as she held the check. The room went dead quiet. Paul opened his mouth. "Kayla, wait," but it was too late. I grabbed my coat purse steady and walked out, their stunned faces burned into my mind. Walking out of that dining room, the cold Missouri air hit my face, the stars shop above the quiet suburb street. I didn't run. Each step to my car was deliberate, the weight of the moment settling in. Inside, I sat for a second, the check's impact replaying, Teresa's trembling hand, the table's stunned silence, Paul's too late plea. Driving away, I glanced back. Paul stood at the window, his face unreadable. No sign of Teresa. Instead of heading straight to the hotel, I pulled into a 24-hour diner on the edge of town, needing space to process. The place was near empty, just a couple of late-night regulars at the counter. I slid into a booth, ordered coffee and a slice of pie I wouldn't eat, and stared out the window. My phone buzzed. Anthony's text. "Kayla, you okay?" That was unreal. "Mom's upstairs, says she's sick. Dad's a mess." Part of me felt the old guilt trained to smooth things over, but a stronger part felt free, like a chain I'd dragged for years snapped. I replied, "I'm fine. At a diner. Talk tomorrow." Dots danced, then his response. I was floored by what Mom said. Way over the line. Sorry I didn't speak up. His words stung with unexpected weight, a crack in his usual distance. The server, noticing my expression, asked if I was all right. "Family holiday," I said with a weak smile. Got heavy. She nodded. "Happens too often. Stay as long as you need." More messages came. Aunt Monica, text when you're safe at the hotel. Uncle Todd. Damn proud of you, that took guts. Even Cousin Lauren texted, self-focused as always. That was awkward. Ben says we're leaving early tomorrow. Paul stayed silent, likely managing Teresa's fallout. At the hotel, I went through my routine mechanically, the adrenaline fading into exhaustion. One last text from Teresa. "How dare you humiliate me like that in front of everyone? That was private. Apologize or we're done." Her pattern was clear. She'd wounded me, yet I owed the apology. Years ago, I'd have caved to keep peace. Not now. I turned off my phone and slept, a deep calm settling despite the storm. My body knew something fundamental had shifted. Morning brought clarity mixed with a strange lightness. I checked out early, stopping at a coffee shop to gather my thoughts before the drive back to San Francisco. I'd planned to stay another day, maybe meet Anthony for coffee, but the pull to my own life was stronger. I drafted replies to Teresa's text, deleting each one too soft, too sharp. Finally I spoke my truth after yours. I'm not sorry. If you want a real relationship, it starts with accountability. I won't pretend your words don't hurt anymore. Sent phone on silent, I hit the road. The 6-hour drive let me process anger, sadness, but mostly liberation. Back in my apartment, Cooper's excited leaps were a balm, his uncomplicated love grounding me. I took him for a long walk along the bay, the San Francisco fog clearing my head. When I checked my phone, messages piled up, but none from Teresa. Anthony wanted to talk soon, his tone earnest. Todd and Monica left voicemails, supportive as ever. Paul, using Teresa's phone, texted, "She's too upset to reply. We need space. Don't reach out for now." For the first time, their rejection didn't cut. It was a relief, a clean break from decades of trying to fit their mold. A month later, in Dr. Garcia's office, the January lights soft on her desk, we unpacked it all. Cooper curled at my feet, my new therapy companion. "How do you feel post-holiday?" she asked. "Lighter," I said honestly. "First Christmas without their expectations, it's freeing." Dr. Garcia nodded. "Your mother's reaction is classic when challenged. She casts herself as the victim, you the aggressor. That relief you feel means something. It means the tie was more draining than nourishing," I said, stroking Cooper's ears. "I spent years chasing her approval, exhausting myself." She smiled. "That awareness is your strength now. How's it showing up elsewhere?" It was everywhere. I spoke up bolder in work meetings, landing a promotion to team lead. I ended a stale dating situation that felt forced. I even called out a rude coworker who'd been passive-aggressive for months. Setting boundaries got easier after facing the toughest critic. Meanwhile, word spread in our Missouri suburb. Monica shared that neighbors whispered about Teresa's outbursts, some siding with me after hearing about the check. The community judgment stung her. She canceled her usual book club, citing stress. Anthony called a week later in town for a conference. We met at a San Francisco cafe, the awkwardness fading fast. "I'm sorry," he said over coffee. "I let Mom's favoritism slide too long. It was easier than fighting her." His honesty hit hard. "We were both caught in her script," I said. "But I could have been better," he insisted. What she said at dinner wasn't new. I should have called it out years ago. We talked for hours, unpacking our different childhoods. His guilt from being favored, my hurt from being sidelined. "Vanessa fits Mom's ideal," he admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if that's why I chose her." I shared my own truth. San Francisco was partly an escape, my wins sweeter without her diminishing them. That lunch marked a new start for us, fragile but real. Spring came and Teresa stayed silent. Paul tried to call, his voice strained. Kayla, can we talk? Your mother's struggling, maybe you could apologize to smooth things over. I cut him off. Dad, I'm done pretending her words don't hurt. No contact unless she owns it. He sighed and I hung up, blocking their numbers. It wasn't anger, just clarity. Acquaintances said Teresa spun the story, painting me as ungrateful herself as blindsided. It didn't faze me anymore. By summer, my life had shifted. A bigger role at work, new friends from a hiking group, a guy I started seeing who valued my directness. The inner voice echoing Teresa's jabs quieted, replaced by confidence. Therapy with Dr. Garcia moved from healing to planning what I wanted next. She was proud. That check wasn't just money, it was a boundary, a reclaiming of your worth. A year later, I hosted a small Christmas in my apartment. Monica taught Anthony without Vanessa and close friends. No Teresa, no Paul, no old weight. The table felt like family chosen for care, not obligation. Looking around, I felt gratitude for the moment that broke me free. From this I learned cutting unhealthy ties isn't selfish, it's survival. I used to think enduring was strength, but true strength is protecting your peace, choosing who gets access to you. To parents, I'd warn favoritism scars kids differently, but deeply avoid it, see each for who they are. To anyone stuck in a cycle like mine, recognize the signs early, set boundaries, and don't fear walking away for your own fulfillment. You're worth it.